Good morning. Still morning.
Right.
Nice to meet you folks. I'm Avery. I am co-founder and CTO at Aptos Labs. For those who don't know, Aptos Labs is a contributor to the Aptos blockchain. It was launched in October of 2022, so fairly recently. And we've got a lot of different design decisions we've made, which we think will really enable Web3 for the masses of the internet population. So starting a little bit of history with us. Our background is that I worked in Meta for 10 years before this. For the last 3 years, I spent working on the Libra project, or the DM blockchain, which you may have heard about. It was a project that we spent a lot of time thinking about the challenges of a place like Meta, with more than 3 billion daily active users and more than many exabytes of data need to be processed on a daily basis in order to support that user base and the user experiences that were there. And what would it take for a Web3 product and a blockchain to be able to support those types of use cases and that type of transactional volume? And that's why we came up with the ideas that ultimately led to what Libra and DM were built on, as well as Aptos, which is its successor. So thinking a bit more about those challenges, there are two basic challenges in our space. One is, how do we enable developers to be able to build world-class applications that can support those internet users and provide value to them in a variety of different spaces? And how do we provide a way for users to be able to leverage those applications in a very seamless way that is used to their patterns of browsing the internet? And so starting out with the very core part of our design, it begins with parallelism, pipelining, and modularity. Parallelism is really important because we need to be able to scale up to the largest use cases in the world. And that involves thinking about how does clouds operate. Clouds operate in a way where you can increase and decrease the resources you have available to it. You can change those resource specifications depending on your use case requirements. And it's also very secure and supports a variety of different types of services for you. And that's what blockchain ultimately should do. When it comes to pipelining, we take a lot of inspiration from modern day CPU processors. When you think about those processors, the way they can achieve high frequency is really be breaking up the stages of computation into very small phases and executing them all very efficiently and very quickly. And modularity as a design principle is really important when it comes to thinking about how do you get software to be developed and iterated on very quickly? How do you make changes to the software stack without affecting negatively your user experience, being able to push those changes out quickly? And upgradability is a really core function for what Aptos is trying to bring to you. And so our design has led us to have 5 different stages of processing. One in which we can accept transactions from LED validator in the network and allow those transactions to be then disseminated to other validators. And this happens in parallel. We have a block metadata ordering phase in which we are able to use a very high performance consensus protocol that we worked on for many different years, Aptos BFT, and get agreement not on the execution of those transactions, but only on the transactions which will be included in the blockchain eventually. Then we go to parallel execution. We built out a novel technology called block STM, which allows us to do dynamic parallelism, something very different in our space, and extract the maximum concurrency you can from any workload automatically. And the next phase after that is really taking advantage of all these executed results and batch storing them onto multiple SSDs, as well as multiple storage devices, reducing I/O seeks and maximizing bandwidth for the network. And the final phase is a state proof certification, where you can generate light client proofs and support these proofs being sent to any kind of mobile devices or devices with less power. And what does this lead to? This has shown us that we can achieve that maximum performance that's necessary for use cases like Facebook to be done on-chain. We do a lot of testing in our infrastructure. And one of the things we've done is enable what's called a preview net. Preview net is a way for us to be able to take the latest version of our code, which share changes that are going to go into production in the future, and then have those changes run in a mainnet-like environment. And so we're really lucky to have a lot of validator operators that work with us on deploying preview net out to more nodes than actually mainnet has, more geographically distributed when it comes to things like Nakamoto coefficient, and also supporting the new software and making sure that it runs correctly and performantly. And what we've been able to see is very remarkable. We've got more than 30,000 transactions per second at our peak workloads for peer-to-peer transactions. We've also seen that we can do more than 2 billion transactions in a 24-hour period. That's more than 13 times what VisaNet does today. And that's with the current stack. And finally, we've been able to show that things like massively minting a whole bunch of NFTs that are sequentially indexed, so you have this contention on a single number, can be actually done in parallel and support massive minting rates for all types and types of use cases for NFTs, whether this be gaming or other products. And it makes sense that a lot of these things that we're building are built for some of the largest use cases in the world. And so we're partnering with some of those large partners like Microsoft when it comes to AI and Web3 developments, as well as financial service infrastructure. We've worked with and are continuing to work with NBC Universal on different ways of fan engagement and content engagement. We've done some pilots with movies like Renfield and The Exorcist, and we're working on deeper integrations when it comes to loyalty programs for their tens of millions of customers. We're also very focused in the Asia part of the region as well, working closely with SK Telecom, which is the largest telecom provider in South Korea, on their Web3 wallet for mass adoption. It's already integrated into Aptos, and we're now brainstorming different ways of leveraging their products into the Web3 space. The last use case I'll call out is Lotte, which is the largest South Korean retailer, who is thinking about different types of applications for NFTs and loyalty when it comes to their department stores and their other products in the space. One thing that's really different about Aptos is it uses the language Move. And Move is a new programming language that was designed for security first. It is much smaller in terms of the set of operations it can support. And it's also much more limited in terms of what you can do to make sure that we don't enable things that are hard, the easy ways to shoot yourself in the foot. And the developer community is growing very, very fast. As we've seen with things like EVM, lots of hacks, billions of dollars lost. And it actually takes much longer to deploy your contract there and get into production because you have to go through so much auditing. You're not very confident in your code being able to secure those assets on chain. And also the tooling is sometimes things that are a little bit more complex to do. And so with Move, we've seen this developer community start to build on Aptos and start to learn about some of these benefits. And it's grown for us to be the #1 Move developer community, as measured by the Electric Capital Report. This is with respect to all metrics, whether it's devs, commits, the repos that are available, and also measured by folks like Artemis as well. And we also see consistently that Aptos is the #4 by daily active addresses for non-EVM chains. And we expect these numbers to all increase as time goes by and as people start to learn the benefits of developing with a programming language that gets you from ideation to production much, much faster than you could do in the past. And I want to talk a little bit about some of the core things that make Move and Aptos really special together. The first thing is that we can make security-first smart contract development a top priority. We have things like the Move Prover. We have the security properties of the Aptos framework being formally verified. And this means that the base layer you build on is already much more secure than would be on other platforms. The other thing is that you can actually take those frameworks and then start to build your applications on top of it. Those applications themselves can also be formally verified so that you have a very strong layering, a construction of safety and security built on top of that. And when you think about composability of these applications across different spaces, so not even just within DeFi, but say DeFi in gaming or DeFi in media entertainment, you have a very secure infrastructure to build on top of that is very different in market. The other thing that gives us a great ability to support internet scale use cases is having that parallelism at every layer of the stack. So rather than taking different pieces of different infrastructures and ecosystems and putting them together, we get to build across language to the way execution is done, to the way storage is done in the blockchain, and make sure we optimize this entire stack together. It's kind of like if you wanted to build a Ferrari from scratch. You wouldn't take parts from a Nissan and parts from a Toyota and try to construct that Ferrari. It's better to actually can customize those parts together and then make sure you're tuning for every optimization for that Ferrari to perform well on the track. We also have account abstraction built natively into Aptos, and that allows us to do things like sponsored transactions, multiple SIGs, as well as crypto agility right out of the box. No need to wait for that. And the final thing I kind of highlighted a little bit more, which is that by having this fully integrated stack that everyone can test from storage to consensus to execution and every phase of that pipeline that we talked about earlier, you can develop incredibly fast. And we've already got more than 40 AIPs submitted and committed since launch. Aptos is something that pushes code on a very regular basis. I think we had 7 major releases last year, and you can expect even more velocity coming forward in 2024. When it comes to smart contract development, we focus on 3 different areas for now. The first one is the core infrastructure. And so thinking about core infrastructure, the question is, how do you onboard all these 5 billion internet users onto Web3? And the challenge, of course, is that it's really hard today. More than 90% of people access the web through their mobile phones. And mobile phones are so easy with things like Face ID and Touch ID. We need to make those technologies available to every application out there. Make it look like just a normal mobile application, a normal native app, a normal experience that you would have browsing the internet on your device. And so we're excited to announce that we have passkeys on Aptos today. So when you log in with your Face ID or Touch ID, what's happening in the back end is it's using Web Authn support in the Aptos account authenticator to verify your transaction or your login. We also have things like Aptos Keyless, which allows you to take any kind of OpenID login, so say what you do is for your Gmail or for your Facebook login, and use that to support tying to a blockchain-based account with a zero-knowledge proof for anonymity. And this allows you now to be able to log in with 2 clicks and build in with any other website that you need to. The third thing we're doing in this space is also pretty neat. Today, I think many of us know the friction of starting something new. You have to download a Chrome extension. The Chrome extension is actually quite hard to interact with. Or you have to download a mobile app, and that's something that's also very painful. We're building out a web wallet, which allows you to log in anywhere, whether it's a mobile device, an iPad, a desktop computer, or anything that has a browser access to it, and be able to transact with your assets using one of these two devices, one of these two ways of logging in, Aptos Keyless and Aptos Passkeys. These are also very composable technologies, which means that you could think about a world where you use Keyless to log in, and maybe for certain transactions that have additional security needs, you can use passkeys to provide additional authentication support for certain types of transactions and workflows. We're also making sure that you can actually build your Move app on easy-use infrastructure. And so some of the things that we've seen that are challenging to people that are building in the Web3 space is, I have an app I want to build, and I need full node support. I need RPC indexing support. How am I going to get that? I'm a new builder. I don't have much funding. I have a very small team. And so Aptos provides out of the box a developer portal in which you can log in, get key access, and get segmented API support for your application right out of the box without having to do anything. When you're ready and when you reach scale, you can have a discussion with node providers about dedicated services for your product. We also provide high-performance indexing out of the box. That is an interesting challenge because a blockchain that can do the kind of things that Aptos can do is save 2 billion transactions a day might require a massive write application of that for indexing workloads. Say a 5x amplification would mean handling 10 billion transactions a day from the indexing point of view. We're building out novel innovation stacks there to support those applications at the largest scale. The next piece is on the token platform and NFT tooling. We're starting to build out different kinds of infrastructures here that also support composable NFTs and tokens from the Aptos platform and be able to make things like meme coins very, very easy to build. Moving a step lower, let's talk about developer platform a little bit. Developing in the smart contracts world is often very unfamiliar for common developers. And so we've been working really hard on supporting things like Aptos Learn, which allows you to take demo apps and build them out for yourself, fully end-to-end, not just the Move code, not just the Node.js code and the React code, but something that allows you to get an application running all the way from the coding side to the tooling side to the deployment side. We've been working on a developer site. It's got more than 300 different pages of documentation and supporting things like being able to use GraphQL queries directly from within that website and get correct, direct answers for your indexing queries and get an idea of how the data development model works. We're also working on framework upgrades. We have a new account v2 abstraction coming, new fungible assets token standard coming, all going to make the lives of your developer support much, much easier. And finally, for those of you who have been coding with general programming languages your whole life, you're very used to things like VS Code and IntelliJ supporting all the things you like, which are analyzers, formatters, linters, and things, even your tools that allow you to, like GitHub Copilot, that allow you to leverage AI in your code building process, and making sure all of that is available for Move today. Digging a bit deeper, the Move itself is a new language. And what we do is we continue to listen to developers who are building in our communities and also developers that are thinking about Move in general. We've been extending the language with a lot of new features, whether things like for loops or iterators. We're building out newer things like receiver-style syntax, enums, public structs, and everything that developers need to actually make their lives much more productive. We're starting to support things like resource access control in a much finer-grained fashion. This allows us two benefits. One is to actually extract more parallelism from the transactions and get even higher throughput, as well as being able to support higher security for your assets as you transact with them on chain. And Move itself is going through a massive upgrade. We've been developing two things we're really excited about to share as well, which are the new Move compiler, which is going to allow people to be able to use both the Move prover and the Move compiler prover in one. And this means we can get features faster to you that can be formally verified. The other thing is actually the Move VM, where we can start to build a new VM all the way from scratch using the best practices of VM construction, including things like memory allocation, zero copy architecture, data loading caching, and things that will probably increase performance 10x or more in the near future. From the blockchain infrastructure standpoint, we are really excited to say that we had our first hackathon for secure on-chain randomness. This is a unique Aptos feature which allows you to construct applications using completely random primitives that's secured on the same properties that secure the blockchain liveness and safety, which is proof of stake. And what can you do with this? You can build all kinds of interesting applications, whether it's fair lotteries, randomized airdrops, or chance-based games. And so an example here we have is something called Zion Bets, where they built out this game called Crash. It's a fun game. You start out by kind of selecting amount of money you want to wager, and then you kind of wait for that application to crash, and you click only one button, which tells you when you want to stop. And in this case here, I stopped it before it crashed. And so therefore I received their multiplier of rewards for the game I played. And an interesting question for this type of game is, how secure is it, and how secure do I feel playing this game from a developer I never met or someone I didn't know? I can look at the smart contract code and see that the way the game was constructed is that it generated a random number prior to the game being launched, and that number cannot be modified or changed during the game. It is then paired with a salt that the developer uses. And the combination of these two things means that I have very, very high confidence that there's no way for someone to cheat who created this game, and the game is completely fair, which is really, really cool. And so this is just an example, but there are many different applications and uses of this, from gaming to loot boxes, to other things that we see the developers are asking for. And there was over 100 developers that participated in this hackathon for different types of prizes, and built out some very, very innovative things in this space. On the blockchain side, we see that the keyless accounts are going to support the login features we talked about, where you can tie your Google login to a blockchain-based account with a zero knowledge proof. We have the aggregator technology, which allows you to do sequential operations in parallel, which is really neat, a little bit magical. We're also supporting storage sharding, which allows you to take more than one RocksDB instance and get much, much higher throughput and scalability for the blockchain infrastructure. And finally, Shoal is our next generation consensus protocol. We published a paper about it in FC, a very recent high profile conference. And we're starting to see the first real benefits of high throughput DAG paired with leader reputation on pipelining low latency consensus to support both high throughput and low latency. Finally, we're building out a whole ton of infrastructure to make sure that all these improvements we're making are verifiable in mainnet testing, from loading the mainnet to PreviewNet 3, to the way we think about the different benchmarks we're creating. We have benchmarks across peer-to-peer transactions, also the way we think about parallel CLOBs indexes, and starting to add other transactions around different use cases like meme coins and NFTs as well. And so for 2024, the Aptos team has been super busy building out what we believe is the stack that's necessary for Web3 adoption of those 5 billion internet users. It's a huge laundry list of things. Definitely take a look at the website for more information, or come talk to me. And the last thing I definitely want to share is that we've been building something out called Aptos Ascend. As I mentioned in our earlier days, we used to work on Diem, which was a payments network to support remittances and other use cases that Facebook was interested in for their billions of users. And what we've had is a lot of conversations with different financial institutions and even other large gaming partners as well, who are asking for, how do we have a network that is going to be providing kind of permission and access control to assets. And there are many different solutions for this, and there are many different possibilities for how this kind of plays out in a networking system. And so what we've done is kind of take a look at those different solutions and provide something that's very customizable for your use case. Whether it's going to be the way that you have administration and compliance and reporting, custody, risk management, as well as account management, or you want to support those network controls through fungible assets itself as a token standard. You can allow list or block list different participants. You can support confidential token transfers. Even support who is allowed to issue and mint as well as burn tokens on the network. All these things are very configurable, and depending on your use case, is something that Aptos is well suited for, not just as a mainnet. So, in summary, I just want to say, if there's something you can take away from this presentation, moving Aptos is something that is changing the way we think about Web3 development as well as deployments. We're seeing solutions in the space where internet user experiences can be provided natively on a blockchain. We're seeing that actually results in unmatched scalability and performance of other networks. And we're starting to build a developer platform that makes it very, very easy for developers to come on board, learn, and deploy their game-changing applications to the world. Things like Aptos Ascend allow us to innovate in other areas too, not just in the kind of mainnet space, but also across different institutions as well. And so what we think this is going to really lead to a massive adoption for 2024 and beyond. I want to thank you very much for your time, and that's it.